The Indian government on Monday decided to scrap Article 370 of the Constitution. The article grants special status to the North Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan has said that it cannot change the nature of the Kashmir dispute. The Pakistan government has called for a joint parliament session today to discuss the developments in Kashmir. Pakistan Army Chief has also summoned a meeting of the Corps commander. Meanwhile, the United Nations has urged both the parties to exercise restraint. A day after two deadly mass shootings in the United States, President Donald Trump has said that hate has no place in the U.S. Trump said that Americans must condemn racism, bigotry and white supremacy, and that perhaps more needs to be done to address gun violence in the United States. He also spoke about the radicalization of mentally disturbed minds on the internet. Trump did not directly address accusations that his anti-immigrant and racially charged comments have contributed to a rise in hate crimes. Meanwhile, hundreds of mothers descended on the White House after a gunman killed 22 people at a Walmart store in El Paso in Texas. Dozens of other activists approached the official residence of U.S. President Donald Trump and chanting in favor of reforms on gun laws. Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said that the United States needed to do more to control the sale of weapons. Speaking during his morning briefing, López Obrador reacted to Saturday's mass shooting in El Paso in Texas that left at least 21 people dead, including Mexican citizens. He said, and I quote, "The U.S. needs to control the indiscriminate sale of weapons. I say this with all due respect." The US-China trade war seems to be heating up. The Chinese companies have now decided to stop buying US agricultural products. This comes as a blow to the US farmers already suffering from dropped exports levels due to the trade war. China may soon impose additional tariffs on US farm products as well. Protesters vandalized another Hong Kong district police station and started a bonfire outside the building. This, as another day of demonstrations caused chaos across the city. Protesters threw bricks at the Hartin police station before setting fire to several plastic containers at the station's entrance. The protesters, numbering in the several hundred, later dispersed before police had a chance to clear them. Hong Kong has been rocked by unrest for several months. The protests initially began against a controversial extradition bill. It has now turned into a full-fledged pro-democracy movement. North Korea has launched two unidentified projectiles earlier today, as per the South Korean military officials. This is the fourth such launch by the North in less than 2 weeks. The tests come as Pyongyang's foreign ministry protested against the joint US-South Korea military drills. The latest development comes as a jolt to the ongoing US-North Korea talks on denuclearization. Russia's deputy foreign minister has said that the United States has dealt a serious blow to the international security system by leaving the INF treaty. The United States formally left the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty with Russia on Friday. This after it determined that Moscow was violating the treaty. It's an accusation that Kremlin has denied. Russia said that it was ready to take comprehensive steps to protect itself. However, Moscow would not deploy missiles abroad unless similar American weapons appeared in a particular region. The Syrian town Khan Sheikhoun was a target of airstrikes after Damascus resumed its offensive on northwest Syria's Idlib, scrapping a ceasefire for the jihadist-run bastion and accusing its opponents of targeting an airbase of its ally Russia. Two Russians were hospitalized with shrapnel wounds after a blast at a Russian military base in the Siberian region of Krasnoyarsk. An ammunition depot at the base caught fire and people in the nearby village of Kamenka were being evacuated. Photographs showed a huge explosion on the horizon with flames leaping into the sky, followed by belching black smoke. The plant is Russia's largest producer of alumina, a raw material which is smelted into aluminium. At least 19 people were killed and 32 others injured in an explosion outside Egypt's National Cancer Institute in central Cairo. The explosion happened after a car driving against traffic collided with 3 other cars. Egypt's public prosecutor is investigating the cause of the incident, but there was no official statement indicating that the explosion was an attack. It was also not clear if the casualties were all from the vehicles. Police in Nigeria clamped down on a planned protest in Lagos. Organizers of the protests and journalists were hauled into vans. Riot officers sealed off the stadium where the rally was to take place. Protesters promoted the rally on social media as #RevolutionNow. The arrests came after the main rally organizer and pro-democracy campaigner Omel Soweri was detained over the weekend. Authorities accused him of calling for the overthrow of the government. Nigerian police described the planned protest as an act of terrorism. But the protesters said they just wanted an improvement in the security situation in Nigeria. The iconic shipyard in Belfast, which built the Titanic, is going through some difficult times. The asset has been put into administration after the parent company, Dolph, in drilling filed for bankruptcy in June. There are no buyers for the shipyard and calls for nationalization have also been rejected. The workers at the yard have struck work and said that they will prevent the administrators from entering the premises. A Florida bodybuilder who admitted sending pipe bombs to prominent Democrats and CNN has been sentenced to 20 years in prison. The judge, however, concluded that the bombs were not meant to explode. The accused had mailed 16 pipe bombs to the Democratic office during the midterm elections last fall. His targets included Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, several members of Congress, former President Barack Obama, and actor Robert De Niro. In a bizarre incident, a gang leader attempted to break out of a Rio de Janeiro prison while dressed as his teenage daughter, dressed in his visiting daughter's clothing and donning a wig and silicone mask as he attempted to escape Garicino prison. His attempt was foiled when guards became suspicious by his nervous and erratic behavior. His plan seemed to include leaving his 19-year-old daughter in the jail. Police are investigating her role as a possible accomplice. Climate campaigner Greta Thunberg opened a conference for young people in Switzerland. Thunberg said that youth activism has raised awareness about global warming and it was now up to world leaders to show they have heeded the warnings. Thunberg also said that leaders have an opportunity at a climate summit in September in New York to address the ecological emergency. Thunberg will be traveling to this UN conference, crossing the Atlantic by boat. The Sabancaya volcano in southern Peru erupted once again on Monday. The eruption spewed a massive column of ash approximately 3,500 meters high into the sky. Sabancaya has been in a period of eruptive activity since 2016 and remains one of the most active volcanoes in Peru. The visuals on your screen now were captured by a social media user at Marco Island. The video captured a waterspout that formed off the coast of Florida. Marco Island is currently receiving higher than expected rainfall. The island is located in the Gulf of Mexico and is one of Florida's 10,000 islands. Firefighters battled two fires near Madrid in Spain. The fire in the Miraflores region was brought under control, but the second blaze was much more intensive. The second blaze burnt more than 740,000 acres of land and also spread onto the national park in the vicinity. Both the fires reportedly started on Sunday. Life is tough at the US-Mexico border, and especially for the children, but they can now at least make up for their lost education. An organization working for the migrant welfare has converted a bus into a classroom. The makeshift classroom currently has 37 students aged between 5 to 12. Volunteers for the organization offer specialized bilingual education, providing a sense of care and security to the children. Passengers and crew were evacuated from the smoke-filled cabin of a British Airways flight. The cabin was filled with smoke in the last 10 minutes of the flight, and the passengers ended up leaving through the emergency chutes. A total of 175 customers were on board the flight, with 6 cabin crew and 2 pilots, according to British Airways. The cause of the incident is yet to be ascertained. 3 passengers were taken to the hospital as a precaution. A pair of conjoined twins from Senegal have defied all medical odds. The doctors had said that they would only live for a couple of days. The twins are now happily attending nursery in England. The two have a closely linked circulatory system, which makes them mutually dependent. This, according to doctors, is why they have beaten the odds. However, separation is not an option for them, as many of their other organs are shared. Two pilots set off on an ambitious attempt to circumnavigate the globe in a newly restored silver Spitfire. The restored silver Spitfire was commonly used during World War II by the Allies. Pilots Steve Brooks and Matt Jones set off in the iconic single-engine aircraft from Goodwood Aerodrome in West Sussex in southern England. The challenge, fittingly titled The Longest Flight, will see the pilots travel a distance of 27,000 miles and is expected to take more than 4 months to complete. An Indonesian man is attempting an incredible task of walking backwards from his hometown to the capital city of Jakarta. The walk is to raise awareness for the devastation left by deforestation in the country. The 43-year-old Mehdi Bastoni began his journey on July 18th and has since completed around 200 kilometers. Indonesia is home to the world's 3rd largest area of tropical forest, but is the 5th largest emitter of the greenhouse gases. Bastoni aims to draw attention to this through his walk. A private funeral has been organized for Kennedy Hale, the granddaughter of Robert F. Kennedy. The funeral at Cape Cod Church was attended by close family and friends. Hale, who was scheduled to start her senior year at Boston College, was found unresponsive at a home in the compound on Thursday. She was pronounced dead at Cape Cod Hospital. The cause of death remains under investigation. An autopsy revealed no signs of trauma, and investigators are awaiting toxicology reports. Pakistani authorities have reopened an ancient temple for the country's tiny Hindu community in the industrial city of Sialkot. The 1,000-year-old temple was closed for worship shortly after the creation of Pakistan in the year 1947. Sialkot city shares a border with Kashmir. A small group of worshippers turned up at the temple to offer prayers on the day of reopening. Sometimes tragedies bring about surprising revelations. One such incident happened in Thailand, where a severe drought exposed a Buddhist temple as the reservoir reaches less than 3% capacity. The remains of a modern temple submerged by construction of the dam 20 years ago have become visible. Some Buddhist monks were among the hundreds of people who walked through the broken temple structures. The complex was littered with dead fish. The monks persisted and paid respects to a headless 4-meter tall Buddha statue.